Hey folks, it's Mike Shea from Sly Flourish here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. This is a weekly show shot 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Times on Twitch in which I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday D&D game. In this case, I am running a homebrew campaign called Eberron, the Second Mourning, set in Eberron. This show is brought to you by the patrons of Sly Flourish. If you want to be a patron of Sly Flourish, you too can join at patreon.com/slyflourish. Patrons of Sly Flourish help fund all of the equipment and bandwidth and other costs that are associated with putting out shows like this and keeping the website up to date and things like the Sly Flourish newsletter and stuff like that. If you are a patron, you have access to an adventure that is exclusively for backers of Sly or patrons of Sly Flourish called Regnum Ratus, The Rats in the Cellar. It is a 1 to 5 introductory adventure for D&D available on my Patreon site. You will also get a monthly newsletter in which I show all of the different things that we've done here for Sly Flourish over the month and any other interesting odds and ends. It's an exclusive newsletter that only patrons of Sly Flourish receive. So I had a show yesterday that was very similar to this one for a one-shot game. That game went very well. It was a lot of fun. The whole thing worked out really well. RSR70 says, "Good morning. The interview with Nerdicky was a few days ago was fun." Yes. So yeah, I was on the Nerdicky show talking to Dave over there on Thursday noon. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. It was good to just have a general conversation about D&D and things that are going on and just sort of let the conversation wander, which is always fun. My mom is here. Hello, Mom. And let's see, a bunch of other people are here. So yeah, I want to talk about, so I got to get prepped for the game. I also want to talk about a new idea that came out of the game yesterday. It was feedback that I got. My wife, Michelle, mentioned something, and she's like, it'd be really great if we could have some better way to sort of, a simple visualization for combat. Just, so theater of the mind is fine, and that's all great. But sometimes it's hard to, like, how many monsters are even left? And instead of having to ask and instead of having to reiterate every time, what are some ways that we can do that would be simple? And I thought, oh man, let me think about this. And so I started thinking about it, and ideas started coming to my mind. And I was like, what about like a text-based battle map? What would a text-based D&D battle map look like? And how could we do that, right? And if you're like, text-based battle map, what does that even mean? Like, you need a grid and tokens and terrain and stuff. How can you have it completely text-based, And then other people are probably thinking like little X's that are moving around. And I was like, no, what if we did it the way that like Darkest Dungeon does combat, where it's one-dimensional. So you think about combat in D&D as being two-dimensional on a grid, right? Most of the time. And you can say like, yeah, sometimes it's 3D, but generally not. Like every so often somebody's flying and every so often somebody's like up on a cliff. But generally speaking, we're handling combat in 2 dimensions. And so what about one-dimensional combat? And Darkest Dungeon, if you are not familiar with it, is a computer role-playing game. Very gritty, very harsh, but beautiful, like crazy dark, fun role-playing game. And let's see if I can bring up. I had a good view of this yesterday. Darkest Dungeon. Let's go to the Darkest Dungeon website. Let's go to their media. They have a media thing here somewhere. Let's go to media and screenshots. So here, that is an example of what combat looks like in Darkest Dungeon. You have your characters on the left, you have the monsters on the right. This feels very familiar to people who have played the old Final Fantasy games. And the idea is like your attacks and everything can hit certain members. So like if somebody in the back can cast spells, and maybe they can cast a weaker spell, they can hit all the people, or maybe they can only cast a spell that hits certain other people. People up front in melee can only hit people in melee and so on. But it's one-dimensional, right? There's no XY version of the grid. It is on a line. And it's like you could kind of do that in text. So I think a little bit later after I get into after we get into things, I'm going to talk about, what the hell? Do we want to do it right now? Let's do it right now. We'll talk about how to do like one-dimensional combat like this, a representation of one-dimensional combat in text. So let me jump over to the show notes here. And right at the end, I even have a little bookmark for it. So how would you do one-dimensional combat? So there are, and I'm also kind of calling this like a Markdown map. Is a stickier title, the Markdown map, because we're going to use Markdown syntax. If you're not familiar with Markdown, Markdown is a way of formatting raw text so that certain programs or applications can render it in rich text, like with bolds and italicized and things like that. And interestingly, Discord supports Markdown. So if we do our battle map here in Markdown and then paste it into Discord, it will render it effectively. So we're going to start by grabbing the characters. Arwen, Shift, Saber. I can never remember. And we have, who are the other? Banner, Zarantir, Shane. Right, so we already have like our list. And you could even have, and then, so what we're going to do, we're going to put some markdown around them. So all we did is put underscores. We surrounded the characters with underscores. That way we know what's going on. And we can actually set a battle order. So like Banner's probably, you know, so it's going to start from back to front downward. That doesn't make much sense, does it? Oh, you know what? So yeah, we're going to go bottom up. Because that way you can also, it just occurred to me, I'm just thinking out loud here, but it occurs to me that you can use your, sometimes Saber likes to be up front. Shift is probably in the back. Shane Husk is probably in the back. This is probably good. I forget who's Arwen. I forgot who Arwen was. Oh, the Artificer. Yeah. So Arwen being up. Yeah. So this is probably, so right off the bat, we have a marching order, right? And we can use that marching order for things that don't involve combat, but we've got it all set. And then when they enter an area, so we're going to, let's do, I think we'll set up one of I think this is going to be the strong start. So we can kind of jump into the game. And the strong start is, so we have an eastern doorway. So we have 3 locations in this chamber that they are entering. An eastern doorway, and in front of the eastern doorway is an animated armor. In fact, there's 2 of them, so we're gonna put 2 there. In the northern doorway are some gnolls, right? And we'll probably have 3 gnolls. And then at the southern doorway are our characters. So right there, we already have our battle map. Right, it's already set. We have an eastern doorway, we have a northern doorway, a northern hallway, and a southern doorway. All of the characters are in the southern doorway. So if Saber says, I want to go charge, and they're all hostile to everybody. So like the animated armors are standing there. The gnolls are sort of out of the shaft, probably firing arrows. I think like there's probably just a couple of gnolls because I think a couple of them died. And there's a bunch of dead gnolls in front of the animated armor. So the gnolls, they might actually stealth their way in. So they might not even be visible in the beginning. But let's say that Banner says, I'm going to go charge the armors. So we move Banner up to the armors, right? And Saber says, I'm also going to charge up the armors. We move them right up to the armors. So now that, you know, when you have a character who is, you know, above or below a creature, that means they are within 5 feet of each other. So right off the bat, we know that they're 5 feet of each other. This little space here, whenever you have a blank space between an area, that means it essentially takes a move action to get from one to the other. So if you're in the northern hallway, you know, it would take, and this is a little complicated because they're actually in 3, they are in 2 dimensions, and you know, I'm not sure the 2 dimensions work. But essentially, if you want to make a move action, and we could just say like it's a move action to get from any one of these locations to any of the other locations. So if, and probably the other 3 here are the 4 are probably happy. But maybe while Saber and Banner are at the eastern doorway in melee with the animated armors, the gnolls come down and attack the front line here. And now the no one's in the northern hallway. The gnolls are attacking with spears. This, you have now groups. You have a group at the eastern doorway that's all packed together. You have a group at the southern doorway who's all packed together. Now, if we go back to where we were and the characters win initiative, Arwen might say, I want to go hit both of those gnolls with an area attack. And they're all grouped together, so you're going to be able to hit them with an area attack. So then what we can do is we can just grab this. And actually, I'm going to go here and go into Discord. And I'm going to show you how it ends up looking inside Discord. So we're going to go, where's my Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday. We'll go to my Sunday group. And we're going to go into the DM channel. The DM channel is my own channel that I only have access to, and it's a way for me to look up monsters. But if I paste the whole thing, that is what it looks like in Discord, right? And so we have bolded location names. We have italicized character names. We have creatures that are non-italicized, and we have locations that, so everybody can generally see who's grouped up, who's adjacent to somebody, what areas are in the room, all that stuff. Now, as a DM, we can also use this. So like Saber starts beating up the animated armor. He hits twice and he does a total of 12 points of damage. We just put 12 next to here. Banner hits the animated armor. He hits it, twice for 16 points of damage. Right, one of the gnolls, both of the gnolls are hit with a blasting fire attack. They both take four damage. We can just track the damage in here. Now we are, and then I'm going to delete this. And we paste it in again, and now the characters can see how much damage they've done to any given monster. If the characters, and we also can go into one of my other favorite things, which is why don't you describe, as soon as you do damage to a creature, the player who does it describes an interesting characteristic. And they might say, Iron Mohawk. My character, they always love Mohawks. So now, and then maybe the other one is made of brass, brass animated armor. The gnolls that took damage, one of them has one eye, and one of them has purple fur. Right, and now it still is all pastable right into the chat. Again, you probably want to delete the old one. Because, and so now, like everybody kind of, you're adding narrative elements into the little thing here so that people can see who's where, who's grouped up, and like which monster, and they can, instead of referring to like gnoll number 4 or the gnoll that took 6 damage, they can say, I want to hit the Iron Mohawk animated armor, right? And then you have some visualizations, some visual, kind of in-world descriptions for the things that they're seeing in game. But you can still move everybody about. So if Zarantir says, or Shane says, I want to go up and hit one of those gnolls, you move him up, you say, which one are you going to hit? And he says, I'm going to hit purple fur, and you put him right in front of purple fur. And then you've got, you move it around. And it's super easy. I mean, you can see that like copying and pasting stuff into Discord, super fast, super easy. You have this sort of one-dimensional representation. So I have not tried this yet. The idea came from my conversation with my wife, and I threw this up on my bigger Discord channel. And we talked about it there, by the way, in case you want to join. Let me get where is it? Server settings, invite people. I want to invite people, and we're going to edit the invite link, and it never expires, and it has no limit on uses. Generate. So here is the Sly Flourish. Sly Flourish Discord channel. Please feel free to join, and I will stick this in the show notes as well. I love having a Discord channel. It's a great place to like sit and talk. We have a lot of cool people there who we talk about D&D. So come into the Discord channel, chat about D&D. Don't be a jerk. Be good. Be good people. And anyway, so I threw this idea up in the Discord channel, and a few people bid on it. And, I don't know. I'm probably more interested in this than most people are. So we'll see. But I think it's a neat idea. And I think it's a cool way to give a visual representation of what's going on in combat in text that you can paste into any chat program. I'm picking Discord because I really like using Discord, and I think it'll work well. So that is one-dimensional text-based combat, or we can call it Markdown maps, because that sounds better, I think. I'm not much of a marketing guy. I don't know what to talk about. So in our last session's game, the characters, so I started off with a big gnoll attack, and the gnolls were, running around doing all kinds of crazies, and it would have worked, going back to the one-dimensional Markdown maps. going back to this, it would have worked really well because I could label every room and say who's in what rooms, because we had gnolls everywhere. So that you have multiple floors, you have multiple rooms, and using this one-dimensional map could tell everybody where everybody was. You would actually see a physical representation of the map, so you'd know, okay, that's where we are in two-dimensional space, or actually three-dimensional because it's multiple levels. But you could also say, like, okay, which gnolls are in which spots. So they fought a bunch of gnolls. They fought a manticore. I don't know if they fought the manticore. I think they kind of dealt with it. But about halfway through, I clued them into the fact that, like, if you do want to go down into that hidden vault, now is the best time. Everyone's distracted. They also saw that Leto Skal. Leto Skal is sort of he's a gold ring member of the Aurum, and he is the one that they delivered their book to. And Leto, they saw, he started like Kona colding gnolls and just blowing them up. And they're like, oh my God. And they also noticed that the gnolls seemed to recognize him. And we're like, oh man, we're sorry. So, there's a lot of like, who's this Leto Skal guy? So they went down into the vault. Let me see. I'm sure I've got a nice vault map. This is the one. Let's paste this into here. So this was the vault that they went into. This is a Dyson map. I've talked all about Dyson maps, Dyson logos. Go look for Dyson logos and use maps. 900 maps, 870 maps or something on his website. So we use this. They come down the central hall, which is great because right off the bat, they see lots of things going on. They saw that there's a big battle going up in this upper room to the north. And that is where the gnolls were fighting animated armors and losing. They saw that there is, in fact, a tunnel that leads off from the north and looks out over the city. They see that there's, I think there's one damage. Did they beat it up? They might have beaten up the second animated armor. I don't remember. I'm going to have to wing some of this, I think. But I think they wanted to head into this room. This area on the far right was an altar, and there was what was sitting on the altar? I think it was a rod. And I don't know if they fetched the rod or not. I don't think they did, but there is a rod, and it is a rod of the Pack Keeper sitting over there. So they did fight another animated armor, and then they got attacked by. The problem is I ran this battle for two different groups, and I can't remember what happened with either one. So yeah, I think they made some noise, and they got attacked by the Hellhound, and they beat the Hellhound. And now they are in this upper chamber. They still have not explored these western chambers. And I don't think they grabbed the rod yet. And they know that there's a couple more animated armors in the hallway here. And they're worried about activating those. So my hope is that they're going to continue to explore. I'm probably going to push them a little bit, be like, you haven't quite met everything. And they're going to feel that there's energy sources here. And, stuff going on here. But I think... I can't remember if they beat the other damaged animated armor up here or not. Ooh, that coffee's hot. Wow. So I can't remember. My camera's a little high in it. I can't remember if they defeated the animated armor or not. Is that better? My head's not off the screen. So I can't remember if they beat the animated armor or not. So I think we're going to start there. And if they remind me, we already beat that, then I'm going to have gnolls come flying in on skateboards. Big flying skateboards. Like Marty in Back to the Future. And let's go to a strong start. Well, let's start with our characters. Let's do a quick review of the characters. So the characters we have today are Arwen Z, known as Chi, who is a scribing gnome artificer. Her father was a famous hero. She has a dodecahedron from her father. That's a Zendrek artifact of some sort. And when you are smart enough to open it, you will. And that's definitely going to have a hook into finding the laboratory of the of House Kenneth, who may have built the first weapon. We have Shift, a Warforged Warlock, one of the first Warlocks who was actually a human converted into a Warlock thing. We have Saber. Saber is a long-tooth shifter monk who's very interested in the Temple of Balinor. And I think that is going to be one of the options for where they go next. I have Shane Husk, Hobgoblin novelist, who wrote novels about the First Mourning and about the war. And some people think he's really great, and some people think he sucks. He's like a popular schlocky writer. We have Banner, a Warforged Paladin who is seeking to become a god. I really need to do more research on the becoming god. I think that's an important hook that I really should be tugging on stronger. And we have Zarentir Delander, who is a Dragonmark Storm Sorcerer Tempest Cleric, all about the storms, even though we just did a whole campaign about storms, who accidentally wrecked an airship. So those are the 6 characters. So the strong start is the damaged animated armor. I can't remember if they beat it or not. More gnolls. So I think that they're standing out over a, oh, this is perfect because this will give them an opportunity to fly away, but I think they're not going to have enough. So there's a manticore flying around, and gnolls are continuing to flood in from the northern chamber. So I think we're going to have gnolls. More gnolls attack. Gnolls. And they're trying to break into the vault to... the gnolls have 2 goals. One is they're trying to take the treasure chest out of the vault to the far west. And then 2 is they're going to try to break into the northern vault to try to steal the shard. But they're probably not going to be very successful at that. So their main goal is to get the chest out. And we have a flying manticore and probably 4 gnolls. That's probably pretty good. And they're all kind of coming in from the north, and the character's going to have to deal with them. So we have gnoll attack as our strong start. We have explore the vault. We have escape the vault. We have, what else? Return to their lair, and their lair is Cafe Obscura. We have potential options for downtimes. And then we have, options, and here are the other potential options. That there is a hidden agent of the Dask and the Cogs who wants to meet with them. There is they're going to learn about the fact that the other tome, the sister to the Tome of Making, known as the Tome of Kolsir, is in Tower 6 of Morgrave University, or they can go to the Fallen Temple of Balinor and recover the insignia of Claws, an artifact that was kept by the Temple of Balinor. That will be sort of a side quest that's for a particular character. So we'll see if the players are interested in that, and they can veto it. But the problem is the player's a strong-minded player, so he might be like, we all should go down there. So we'll find out how that works out. So those are the scenes. I think it's probably important to, what are some potential downtime scenes? A couple of them, at least one of them, are all about the magic items, but ain't gonna be able to afford them. Magic items are expensive. So meet with criminal contacts. Hunt the Emerald Claw is an option. Investigate Morgrave University. Investigate the Dask. What other downtime activities could they engage in? Shift could meet their maker for upgrades and whatnot. What else? What other kind of fun scenes could we do? Other kinds of downtime scenes beyond the normal? What are some of the scenes that'll help move them in the right direction? Who are the other players? So are there any other, who do we have as fronts, right? And could they investigate those fronts? So they could investigate Lido Skal. You know, that's another one. Oh, and the other one, so another option about where they go is they heard about the ship, and did I put it down here? That down in the docks is the ship. We'll call it the Northern Wind. The ship that brought back the Dragon Shard. So that can be another thing, and they could learn more about that with potential downtime teams. So there's some options there. I don't know if those are great. You know, we'll see what's going on in chat. I haven't been looking at chat. Darkest Dungeon is great. Go buy it. Yeah, Darkest Dungeon is awesome. I wish it were a little easier sometimes. Always understanding about players. I guess they have an easier mode for Darkest Dungeon that I should really play through, where you kind of level faster. I've never gotten to the end of the game. Discord is really nice. Yes, it is. Not a bad little magic item. No, it's not. Hey, I just bought Fantastic Locations. Great. I hope you enjoyed Fantastic Locations. Maybe one of the Explorer's Cubes if they're interested in seeking riches outside. Potential recruitment by House Kenneth. Mickey Avelli has a quick question regarding strong starts. Yes, ask away. I'm always happy to talk about that stuff. You ask your question. I'm going to work on secrets. So we need 10 secrets and clues for today's game. So there are and I'm stealing some from last week. There are multiple. Let's go over to Eberron and let's look at Criminal Adventures in Sharn Dask. Who's leading the Dask? They operate out of Kyber's Gate. Dask Operations, Dask NPCs, Sora Ketra. Oh, except Sora Ketra is one of the, so Kavella. How about Lido Skal and Kavella are siblings. That'd be kind of interesting. The sisters of Droam desperately want the power to create a Second Mourning. The Emerald Claw is operating their leader is a knight, bone knight, known as Lord Crash. So there's some good secrets. What are some other secrets that'll come out? Those are the kind of the other major fronts. Seekers of the Power of the Morning need 3 things. Instructions, a laboratory, and a power source. And those are the books. The Tomes of Making. The laboratory, the Kenneth Laboratory in the middle of the Mornland. And a power source, a large dragon shard. That's a big secret. All right, we got 3 more. Question on the side. What's best to do if they do something like beat a villain at the end of the previous session or clear out a camp? At the start of the session, they may want to question the villain or loot them or whatever. I just often find it difficult to throw them straight into action in the way my sessions end. As there's sometimes some housekeeping, etc. They tend not to finish a session in a position where they might be jumped or in danger next time. Is it better to hand wave the housekeeping or start weaker? Yeah, I mean, if they're into it, they're into it. And if you know where it's going to start, I think it's okay. But, you know, I wonder, like, how safe do they have to be where the remaining minions of the villain can't try a counterattack? And it could suck. Like, the counterattack can suck. It doesn't have to be a good, clear challenge. It can be that a bunch of his minions attempt to grab him back. You know, does he have a mage who teleports in with a bunch of people to try to rescue the villain? And you don't think it's going to succeed, but it can certainly shake things up. So, you know, that's an option. But remember that, like, they are somewhere, right? When they begin the session, even if they're going back and they're working on housekeeping to kind of interrogate a villain or whatever, they're still somewhere, and something can happen there. And it doesn't have to be something even directly connected to the characters. It can be just an event that's occurring in the area. It could be that suddenly there's a war, or an airship crashes, or, you know, any number of different potential strong starts that just kind of shake up the situation in the area. Now, the key is, like, if you've got time constraints and you want to move on, like a good strong start takes like half an hour to an hour to play out, depending on how big it is. So, you know, if you don't need it, you don't need it. It's not none of these rules, they're not even rules. None of the steps are required. And if they don't make sense, throw them away, right? If you've got an idea where things are going to go, that's great. You know, that you can always you know, you run your game however works for you, and take the steps that work for you, and throw away the ones that don't. There are many times where I go through these, and people have seen it on the show, where I just look, I go, yeah, I don't need to do locations, I'm good, right? And I just skip it. Or I don't need to do, they're good on magic items, I'm gonna skip that. I rarely throw away the strong start, because I do want people to kind of start off with a bang and get dice rolling. I had it where they captured a villain, and the villain turned out to be something way worse, and he converted into something else. So he transformed into some horrible monster. Sometimes that went, you know, poorly. So I don't know. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. You know, the question is, like, sit for a minute and think about, like, well, what could happen, you know, and what could happen that's involved in the situation, or what could happen that's in the area. And, you know, those could be a couple ways to do it. But yeah, strong starts can be many different things. It just means that something happens, right? Something happens, and you want to start with something happening. And it's the one time when you as the DM have almost any control over the game, because you can drop in that thing that happens, right? And, but it doesn't have to be combat. It doesn't have to be, something that directly involves the characters. It can be an event that's occurring, it can be a party, right? It can't be that there's a great big, you know, a race going on outside, or animals got free or something. Just, it could be a lot of different things. So, yeah, don't hang on too tight. And again, if it doesn't make sense and you're like struggling, like, I don't know what to do, but if you know where the game is going to start already, and if the players know where the game is going to start, then you probably don't have a problem, right? It's what you don't want to have happen is that, like, everybody sits at the table and they're like, I don't know, what are we doing? What, you know, you want to, like, bang, you know, like Knowles. So, yeah, there's my thought about strong starts. So, I need 3 more secrets. How about Tower 6? Tower 6 houses many dangerous works. Very few are allowed in it. It's protected by the ancestors of the university. Cats, man. Cats scratching at the door. I can't open the door because my wife's right upstairs and she'll hear everything about the game. The coffee's really good. So, Tower 6 or Moorgrave University houses many dangerous works. Very few are allowed in it. It's protected by ancestors of the university. Are there any other... the Emerald Claw thinks, yeah, whatever. They have a way to find the location of the Kenneth. I need to come up with a better, cooler name for the Kenneth Laboratory. This is the place in the Mournland where potentially the first, where the first weapon of the morning was there. He's Not Your Problem says, it's rumored that a novice artificer who learned too much ended up dying under mysterious circumstances. Yeah, and down in Tower 6. Yeah, Tower 6, all kinds of things could happen. Yeah, there's actually, Eberron has, if you like talking about like strong starts and stuff, I think, is it in one of these in Sharn? I think it's Adventures in Sharn. And yeah, so there's like street events, right? And these are great. Like what event occurs, and all kinds of things could take place. And these, upper events, lower events, all kinds of things. Skyway events, all sorts of things that can happen here. So real, these events are exactly the kinds of things that you can use for a strong start. All right, one more secret. Oh, what else can the characters learn? The massive dragon shard has something embedded within it. It drove those who sailed it back to Sharn into madness and cannibalism. Cannibalism is creepy. Yeah, so I got a bunch of things there. That's fine. That'll serve. Locations. So we have a few different locations. Cafe Obscura. We now have a map for that. Here's the map of what their place looks like. One thing I don't do, and so I don't know. I'll take it back. I was gonna say, like, I don't attack the home base, but there's no reason you can't attack the home base. Just don't do it all the time. It's their fortress of solitude, and generally speaking, that you should, give them the right of way. Like, don't. Yeah, I was talking about like adventure models from movies, and I was writing about it yesterday, and I was talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I was like, Raiders of the Lost Ark has a great adventure seed that you can use as a model for your game, which is you're trying to acquire something ancient that's been buried out there for a long time, and you're not the only one. And if you think about it, my whole campaign is built around this continual like go fetch things and other people want them. So is Indiana Jones, right? Because like right in the beginning, he's trying to get the idol, and he's going through this whole trapped place to get this idol, and then he gets out there and there's his rival with a bunch of dudes that are like, we're taking that thing from you, and he gets away, and he might have gotten away with the idol. So here's the trick, right? The movie had him lose the idol, and the movie also has him lose the ark, right? The freaking Belloc takes his crap every time, right? Now, we might be tempted we might be tempted to say, how am I going to work the story so that happens? How am I going to work the story so that Belloc gets the ark, or that the Emerald Claw manages to steal the crystal, or whatever? And the answer is you don't plan on that happening. You can certainly have the villains try, and maybe they succeed, but your players are smart. So you don't want to thwart your players, preventing a situation where the villains are trying to steal something, right? If let's say let's have a hypothetical situation that's a very Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's very much like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. The characters have to go to Morgrave University. They find out that there's like ancient cells beneath or they go to Tower 6. They find out that in Tower 6, there's these lower chambers where the forbidden libraries are, and actually only like 2 people ever go down there, and they just go and they put books and they go away, and they don't like it, and people have to cycle through because they go crazy down there. And the characters go down there, and it's like haunted by like librarian specters, and they fight the librarian specters, or they deal with them or whatever, and they manage to get the Tome of Kul Sir, which is this like really powerful book that has all these like ancient spells and rituals of the giants of Zendrek from 30,000 years ago. So they grab the book and they leave, and Emerald Claw is showing up, and a bunch of Emerald Claw mercenaries are attacking, and they're brutish, so they just sort of attack. And the Emerald Claw is like, we want to get that book. So we might be tempted to like make sure that the Emerald Claw somehow gets the book. But better is they try for the book, and the players are smart about like, I'm running with it, or I'm putting it in a bag of holding and I'm swallowing it, or whatever. So, somehow they make sure that the book does not get stolen. You don't want to force it, right? I mean, the storyline isn't that the Emerald Claw has to get the book for the story to go forward. The Emerald Claw tries something else. Maybe they don't need that book, or maybe they're like, you know what, forget it. I'm going to go get a skull piece from one of the Zendrek people, and we're going to raise that guy, and he's going to tell us the spells, or we're not going to actually be able to use the ritual, but we're going to just blow up the crystal in Sharn anyway, as like a giant dirty bomb. So the drive of the enemies we control. What they try to do, we control. What we don't want to try to control is what happens, right? What happens is what happens at the table. So Raiders of the Lost Ark makes for a great campaign arc, but it's dangerous to think that the villains are going to get a hold of the arc halfway through, or that they're going to get a hold of the Grail Diary. It's better it's better when you think about the idol, or the medallion, right? That like Indy is going for the medallion with Marion, and Tote comes in to get the medallion. And then there's a big fight, and Tote almost gets the medallion. He grabs it and he has it, but it burns his hand, and he drops it and he flees, and he doesn't get it. And Indy and Marion, they do get it. She wraps it up in a handkerchief, which you think Tote would have done. And he runs off. And so they have the medallion, right? And then their whole thing is like, we know where the ark is, and no one else does, right? And they're like, well, they're digging somewhere. And it's like, how can they dig somewhere? And it turns out that Tote, had another way, right? His hand was burned, and he had the map on his hand. And that is an interesting, that's sort of an organic way that the story went, that he's got part of it, but he doesn't have the whole map, right? Because he only had one side. So that is where you can see that, like, in another version of that movie, Tote would have grabbed the medallion and gotten away with it, right? And then the characters have to like go chase Tote to get the medallion back. And, or they have to find another way. Like maybe there's, a Marion says that wasn't the only medallion. There were actually a couple of them, and we got to go get the other one, but it's in my dad's vault in Italy or whatever, So shifting the story around, and, but the interesting bit is watching how, watching how the story evolves at the table, and that means not forcing on things. That was really long. Sorry. A big long diatribe. The point is, we drive the villains and the NPCs. We don't drive the future of the story. Now, we can make things up, though. We can make up a second medallion. We can say, like, if the Emerald Claw doesn't get a hold of the Book of Kol Sir, what are their other options? And we can make options up that didn't exist. Like, what if they try to get a skull piece, from one of the arcane giants, and they resurrect him and try to draw the arcane knowledge directly out of the head of the giants who had it, right? Well, that option never existed till we thought of it, but it can exist anyway. So there we are. Snark Knight says, like, somewhere there's a mold where the amulet was made. Yeah, because maybe, right? It didn't look like it was carved. Right. So you come up with another reason. The players drive the story, the GM drives the villains. Yeah. Boy, that's like a whatever, 9-word version of what just took me a half hour to talk about. Thank you. So, fantastic locations. We have the Cafe Obscura. We have some interesting things in the Cafe Obscura that we can go on. We have the Twisted Docks, right? Really, this is the ghost ship. And this is... we have the North Wind, right? And the North Wind is... I don't know why I'm doing Markdown text. I'm so into Markdown. This is the abandoned dock that's down in the docks area, and there's a ship that's been there now for about 3 or 4 months since it came back from Zendrak. And if they explore it, it's filled with, weird ghosts and probably ghouls and other kinds of nasty things. And they can kind of learn more about what happened on the ship. We don't need to worry about Sined's food and drink. We don't need to worry about that. Those are all gone. Temple of Balinar and Fallen. That one we had. I thought we had a... Yeah, so I have the Ruined Temple of Balinar, right? So that's one. We have Leto Skull's Manor. We're going to probably end that today, right? There are the 3 maps for that. Moorgrave University and the restricted section. Let's take a quick look at these maps here and see what they look like. Why does this one keep showing up, man? I've used this one. Is that right? I already used this. I just used this map. It's a great map. I'm not using it again. I guess I was not necessarily going to use that for the elements. So let's take a look at this one. Is this one really big and crazy? Yeah. All right. I thought I had better maps. I'm going to have to go dig for a map, and I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to do it after the show. But I need better maps for Moorgrave University. The Ruined Temple of Balinor. Yeah, this is a good one, and I like this one a lot. So I think I can come up with a pretty quick adventure for them to explore this place. And we have some other cool, like Sharn. These are Sharn locations. So I got a good map. Why don't we take I'm going to delete this one. I thought for sure I had better Moorgrave. You know what? Let me do a quick. I'm going to just look, because I think maybe in my Wednesday game I had some. So let's look at my Wednesday notes. Here we go. So better Moorgrave. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, this looks good. So let me grab these and drop in my Sunday game. And great library. So yeah, I think there's multiple floors here. So we have these. This is Tower 6, right? Wow, there's a lot of. These are the ungraded versions. So we have Tower 6, which looks like this, but then there's underneath, and it looks like Dyson once again has this covered back in 2006. Yeah, has the lower. Oh, perfect, right? The lower vaults. So yeah, we now have a nice big meaty place. Perfect. Nice big meaty place. For does Sharn City of Towers has a Moorgrave map? Interesting. Yeah, I think I'm probably good with what I got. It'll serve. So NPCs, I could probably clean some of this up because I don't think I was going to bring these guys in, the Ambassador to Breland and stuff like that. We're going to get rid of them. Polydramera, I kind of like. Gabriel Northwillow, I kind of like him. We may come back in. We have Doris. We have Leto. We have Lyra Willowsong, Elf of the Aurum. Elf Wizard Aurum Concordian, neutral. We're going to get rid of that one. Lord Crash is good. Laura Vegok is the new social media manager for Cafe Obscura. And Eric Mac the Knifeborn is a barista at Cafe Obscura. He took on that job after all of his friends were killed by the characters. Who was he? Was he Emerald Claw? I don't think so. No, he was. They were like low-level street guys that attacked, and the party killed a few and interrogated a few and hired a few. And Murdo Gemseether took off, so we're gonna get rid of her. I don't remember who Angel Bright is. I don't remember who Red Iron and Needles. I remember who Soul is. Needles is the Lord of Blades. Yeah. Iron Nails. Iron Nails are the low rent hoods. So I got a few different things in here. Monsters, I don't know what we got. So I know we're going to have some. We have Balinor Temple, and we have the remainder of the vault. Leto Skull's vault. That has animated armor. Oh, I've got a great NPC. And it's the one. So as I mentioned, here's a little fun secret. I think I might have maybe I've mentioned this. Not a great secret, but so in the vault is a treasure chest. If we go back, let's go to Leto Skull's vault. God, I love Dyson maps so much. So we go to Leto Skull's vault. On that far left side, that center room where it has a portcullis and a chain, there is a chest sitting in there, and the chest is wrapped up in chains. And the gnolls have been asked to go and grab the chest. And the reason why is that the chest is actually a mimic, and the mimic is a spy for the Dask. It's a spy specifically for Leto Skull's sister, and who's going to be an NPC, and I should probably put her in the NPCs, which is Cavella. And so I need a fun. So the mimic is a spy of the Dask that they tried to plant in Leto Skull's vault, and he figured it out, and he just chained the mimic up, and now it's burned. The Hellhound had been burning it, and for funsies, and now the Gnolls are trying to get it out, but the characters might be able to get it instead. So they would have a mimic ally. So I need a fun name for a mimic. What would you name? What would a mimic's name? What would be a fun mimic name? I don't know if any of these are gonna work. Simim, Simim the mimic. It's not bad. Simon the mimic. Lock and Key. Yeah, that's not bad. Ironbinder. I don't know. We're gonna go with Simon. Simon the Mimic. Toothy. Clack. So the Mimic will be a source of secrets and clues and other information that they could get inside the vault, and I think that will be a fun. I'm kind of looking forward to that encounter. I love the idea of a Mimic NPC. I think that will be a good time. What other? So locations. Oh, I was doing monsters. Am I good on locations? Do I have everything? Like all the places that they could go? Of Leto Skulls, University. The other one is going down into the cogs, and I'm gonna have to. Cogs is gonna be. Now there's a great map of the cogs in here. If we go to Adventures in Sharn, is it? Is that where? Looking for maps. They got a lot of great maps in this book. I really love this book. I love D&D, period. But I love this book too. I'm just happy to have all this stuff. There's so many great resources. Yes, so here is the hub, right? And copy that link address. And so I've got a copy of the hub. Let's take a look. Big, right? So, they probably can come in from different places. And there's a lot of like monstrous dangers. So, and I think they'll probably meet like somewhere down in here. So maybe they have to sort of make their way. It's a great map, but it's kind of big. What I find really interesting is like, here's a map that's in the Eberron book, right? This map is right in this book. This is the Eberron source book. And it has, it's got these maps in it, right? That's a beautiful map. And the guy who did these maps is none other than Dyson, right? And Dyson also gives away his maps for free. So you have like 850 maps that are the equivalent of the maps that Wizards of the Coast is putting in their books, and we have it all access. Like, I don't know, it's so great. I think Dyson Logos maps are very close to my favorite resource on for D&D. Discord being great too. I'll tell you, it's also another, not to just constantly run off on different topics, but it's been really interesting playing D&D online for a while now and doing the prep for it. And it's pretty easy. And it's things like being able to just grab these maps and use them directly is really nice. And I don't know. It's fascinating. Like I realized that like I spend a tremendous amount of time thinking about D&D, which I don't think surprises anybody.
and to suddenly start playing D&D online all the time, like 3 games a week. I'm learning all kinds of new stuff, and it's great to learn new things about this game at this volume, like the one-dimensional combat tracker, and like how to copy and paste maps, and how to use Discord, and all the sort of odds and ends of like still trying to, Avre, right? Maximizing the value of Avre. And it's a lot of fun to kind of learn these things and see how they can enhance the game and see how they can enhance our connection with our players as we play. It's really a fascinating time, and it's fascinating for me. Like, it's a dark time. I'm really not happy that we are where we are right now, obviously. But, one nice thing about it is that I'm learning a lot more about this game than I knew otherwise, because I've been playing basically the same way for a decade. And now I'm playing an entirely different way, and I'm learning a lot. And as I learn a lot, I get a lot of more experience, and it's just, I don't know, it's fascinating. I'm having a great time. Even though, like, look, the fact that I'm having a great time or not does not change the state of the rest of the world, and I'm really sad about the rest of the state of the world. So here we are. What else do we got? So I think we've got some good locations. I'm gonna have to handle, like, the cogs. I'm gonna be running some random encounters. I'll probably grab random encounters out of some other things, some other books. And I'm gonna, if they head down that way, we're gonna have to, I'm gonna have to make it up as we go. So we will see. Do I have the monsters for? These are NPCs. Where are my monsters? There's the monsters. So Leto Skull's Vault. We have animated armor, Nulls. For Balinor Temple, we have Null Witherlings, Psychic Grey Oozes. Ooh, that sounds like fun. And Minotaur Skeletons. For Tower 6, we have Wights. We have Specters. Shadows. People love Shadows, man. Shadows and Specters are everyone's favorite monster. That's probably pretty good, right? Is there anything else? Oh, a Gazer, right? Yeah. Time for a Beholder. Let's take a look at Gazers. Is there a more powerful? So that's CR1/2. I need a more powerful Gauth. I think Gauths are CR6, right? Oh boy. Eats Magic. Spectator. There's all these different. Yeah, I think a Spectator is probably better. They are magical guardians, right? Yeah. So this is Spectator. I think we're gonna have a couple of them. 2 Spectators. Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited about Spectators. Tower 6. That's going to be awesome. Paralyzing. Oh, look at him. 2 out of the following magical eye rays at 1 or 2. And it's not random. It chooses up to 2 of the following. So it can pick. Nice. If the spell Spectre makes a successful saving throw against a spell, it misses. So I guess its central eye is sort of a spell reflector. These are cool. I like these guys. I wonder if you could change the anti-magic eye of a regular beholder into a spell reflector beholder. Give it like magic resistance and have it reflect spells. Might be a better version of the anti-magic cone, which can be so much trouble. Like maybe you can shift it somehow and turn it off. I like it because I think they like spell reflection is better than anti-magic. I mean, anti-magic blocks magic, but the problem is it also blocks its eye rays. Spell reflection doesn't block its eye rays. This is a problem I have with beholders. So we have Tower 6. And I think for the cogs, We're going to have like a random assortment of nasty monsters. You know, I could probably do better than that, but we'll see. That's pretty good. It's probably time I started asking the players what kind of magic items do they want, you know? So, yeah. Oh, and then these are my other little things. All right. So, we are closing in. And it's been an hour, and I think we're all set. So I'm going to try. I'm curious, Twitch chat, what do you guys think? So in the beginning of the show, there's more people now watching. Wow, 60 people. There's more people watching the show now than there were before. So a quick talk, just a quick summary. And in the beginning of the show, I talked about an idea called one-dimensional text-based combat maps, or Markdown maps. And the idea here was to help players see the situation of a battle in a text-based way that we could paste directly into Discord. So the idea here is you have locations like Eastern Doorway, Northern Doorway, Southern Doorway. You have monsters like Iron Mohawk animated armor, Brass animated armor. These were defined. These traits were defined by players. Characters have underscores. They're wrapped in underscores, which means in Markdown they'll be italicized. And any blank space between an area means that it takes a move action to get there. If you had a farther thing, let's say the Northern and Southern Doorway were 2 moves apart, you could have 2 line breaks that show it's going to take you 2 moves to get there. So you can do separation of line breaks to show it. And then when you paste this into Discord, I know one of these is Discord. Come on. Oh, did I close it? I must have closed it. Let's get Discord up and running, and let's go to my Sunday D&D game, and we'll go to my DM channel. So when you paste it in, that's what you see, right? You have the Eastern Doorway, which shows that there's an Iron Mohawk animated armor who's adjacent to Saber. There's Brass animated armor that's also adjacent to both Saber and Banner. Basically, all these guys are grouped together. They're all within about 5 feet of each other, and if you kind of move around in here, you're going to take opportunity attacks. There's One-Eyed Gnolls and a Purple Fur Gnolls, and Shane is up there in the Northern Hallway. And then you have the Southern Doorway where 3 other characters are hanging out. It's Arwen, Zarantir, and Shift. So, you know, we have a visual for sort of how everybody is arranged and how everybody is grouped up in a battle. So I'm curious what folks... I would use a dash. So Draga here says, I would use a dash to mark move actions as it's easy to see. It's easier to see than spaces. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Let me take a look at that. So you're saying like I could use, I could put like a couple of dashes or whatever. I think that does a horizontal rule. So I might be able to separate it with like a horizontal rule. Yeah, so that way you can see that there's a space between there and getting from one to the other. And if you wanted to say like, hey, that's far away, you might drop 2 of those in there. Like that. So like the Southern Hallway requires 2 move actions, essentially. You're not going to be able to move and attack, but 2 move actions gets you into that other area. So that would mean it's like on the order like 50, 60 feet away. And you could say as a monk, they could make it with 1. So that's not a bad idea. It sounds intriguing. I'd like to see it in a YouTube game. Evil John says, I love the concept of range bands. Does that give you that idea, the dash thing? Does that give a range band, or you see something else? Do you have another idea? I'm curious. Yeah, so I'm going to try it. I think it's going to take me time. Oh no, you like the little dashes. So yeah, I like the dashes too. I think that's pretty good. I'm curious. I think if you do 4, it's an HR, a horizontal rule. Let's see. Curious. No, it doesn't matter. So yeah, so you know, little dashes of 3 are kind of the range. You know, that kind of shows you who's near who. And many times you only have 1 location, right? So you don't really have all these like 3 different places and stuff like that. So I think that can work. I'm going to delete these. Anyway, I'm really excited to try that out today. I'm going to talk to my players about it ahead of time so they understand how it works. Man, I put a lot of these in here, didn't I? and we'll try it out, and you know, I'll figure it out. So, and if you guys are running any online games and you want to try it out, I'd love to hear if it works for you. All right, so I am going to that's it for today. I think I'm all set. I feel pretty good about today's adventure. I'm excited to run it, which is always great. This is Second Mourning session 6. And I will see all of you guys next week. We will. So I don't think I have a game next Saturday. At least I don't have one yet. So I don't know if I'll be doing. I probably won't be doing a Saturday game prep, but I will certainly be here Sunday. So I will see all of you guys next week. So have a great week. Stay safe and get out there. Don't get out there. Stay home, but play some D&D.